Today we'll start with the module 1, that is introduction to pavement design. So out of that I'll be discussing on desirable characteristics of pavement, what is a pavement and its types, and if possible I'll try to cover the components of pavement. Okay, and tomorrow class we'll discuss highway pavement and airfield pavement. All are able to see the slide pavement design? Yes, anyone respond?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So pavement is a, just I'll show the photograph. Yeah. So here you can see this, it's not a single top layer of the pavement, top layer of the road. It is a layer of materials which are compacted and made structure. That entire layers together we are calling as a pavement. It's not only the top bitumen we are calling as a road, or top concrete layer we are calling as a road. It is from subgrade soil, natural soil, till the wearing surface. That is, in case of rigid pavement, the concrete top layer, the rough surfacing which they make, no, till that point it is a pavement. Entire layers, all layers together we call as a pavement structure. Like for building you have substructure and superstructure. No? First, that is foundation, then foundation below the earth, that is substructure, and above the ground we are calling as a superstructure. Similarly, here pavement foundation, some of the part which we will not be able to see, that is natural subgrade, then prepared subgrade, that is low, the soil itself is compacted. If it is a good quality of soil is there, then the same soil is compacted. We are not getting it from outside, but the same soil is compacted and prepared, that is prepared subgrade. Then we will have a subbase, base layer, and wearing course. So this entire structure, layer of pavement materials used, so that we are calling as a pavement. Okay. Pavement is a structure which is suitably designed. Suitably designed means here we are considering some of the factors, like traffic factor, or it may be with respect to design wheel load, and soil properties, CVR values and all. So it is structure which is designed. We are not, it's not like same thickness we are adopting. No, it is designed for a particular traffic or a particular design life for different type of soils. The of externally we may see that here also bituminous road is there also bituminous road, but the thickness may vary depending on the subgrade soil which is going to transfer the load. So it is suitably designed by an engineer and constructed in order to provide a suitable and even surface for the traffic. So for the vehicular movement, even surface is provided. Even surface, as a civil engineer, you can understand, even though it is looks flat, but we are providing certain camber, so that surface rainwater should not stand and should run off. Side drains are provided, then cross drainages are provided, so that it can serve up till the design life, right? So it is constructed in, so construction process also need to be monitored, compaction, right? Everything need to be monitored. So that entire structure we call it as a pavement. And the pavement consisting of a few layers of pavement materials, as I discussed earlier. It may be soil or aggregates of different sizes, so that it can transfer the superstructure load. What is that superstructure load? Wheel load, which is coming on that pavement, that need to be distributed to the foundation. That is, foundation is nothing but the subgrade soil. So some of the desirable characteristics of pavement, for which material we can call as a pavement. When a vehicle is running on that pavement, it should not fail. If you are taking a two-wheeler or four-wheeler or even trucks in mud road, you can observe in especially rainy season, wherever the wheel will move, that impression will be there. Means that particular structure has, particular soil membrane has failed to resist the load and it has settled. That we can see in the mud road, but that will not see in bituminous road or concrete road, because that is designed in such a manner that it will not settle, it will not fail, it will withstand the stresses. Kind of structure need to be designed. And second is, it should be sufficiently thick to distribute the loads and stresses to a safe value on the subgrade soil. Till the subgrade, it should distribute the entire load which is coming on that particular structure. That may be uh, bearing course or base or sub base. So whatever load is coming, that need to be evenly distributed as per its design. If it is a flexible pavement, then grain to grain load distribution will be taking place. If it is a rigid pavement, then slab action will be taking place and it is distributed to the lower layer. So next point is here, it should provide a reasonably hard wearing surface. So whatever pavement which you are going to design, so the top layer should be very hard. It should resist the penetration or the some of the impact loads. For example, airfield pavement, takeoff and landing. So there you'll observe that is impact load is sudden impact will take place. So that time if the tire penetrates into the pavement, then what will happen? There may be chances of accidents, right? Similarly, in case of roads, immediately after hump, vehicle wheel penetrates into the pavement, but the top layer is very weak. Then what will happen? They will observe that is potholes. In some of the city roads, you might have observed that is immediately after hump there is a pothole. The reason behind that is either the hump is not designed properly or the pavement is weak to take that impact load. And abrasion action will be taking place between the pneumatic tires or iron tires and the pavement surface. So it should be strong enough to resist wheel load. And it should be dust free, dust proof, and ultimately the riding quality should be good. In when you are going at a high speed, when you are going at a low speed, or it may be a moderate speed when you are moving, the riding quality should be good. Means it should not create any noise. It should not be too much of friction between the road surface and tires. Then tire consumption will be more. If it is creating rough surfaces there, then you'll observe a lot of noise. You might have experienced when you are taking a four-wheeler on a highway, especially expressways or national highways, where you can take a speed up to 100 or 120. In the cabin, there may be a noise because of tires. The reason behind that, when you run your vehicle on the rigid pavement, it is not as smooth as flexible pavement. There will be a gap between the tire and the pavement surface because the surface is made rough. So there is a gap, and that small gap creates the noise. So that's why even in expressways, the rigid pavements over the rigid pavement, the thin flexible pavement of bituminous layer is made so that it can reduce the noise and riding comfort should be increased. Next point is the surface of the pavement should have a texture and adequate roughness to prevent the skidding of vehicles. In the stopping side distance formula, you might have studied that is braking efficiency. Then, if it is too smooth, if the roughness is very less, if it is too smooth, then what will happen? When you apply a brake, there is very less chances of braking. Then there may be chances of accidents. And if it is rough, then the tire consumption is more, creates a lot of noise, right? So it should be adequate. It should not be too less or too, it should not be more, right? So that should be the range and all that IRC codes will provide for different types of roads. That will be discussing in the next further classes. Next is the surface should not produce excessive level of sound. That's what I have mentioned. Sound is with respect to roughness of the pavement surface. So if it is rough, then definitely there will be a noise. Ultimately, we want to convey that the riding quality on that particular designed pavement should be very good. It should be safe with respect to the skid, or when you apply a brake, the within whatever designed distance, it should stop. The vehicle should stop. Next is the surface should be impervious. Why it should be impervious? Because the layers, lower layers like base and subbase or subgrade, when it comes in contact with the water, there may be, it may lose its strength. There may be chances of settlement. There may be chances of the finer particles may flow with the water, and there may be chances of the pavement may fail over the period. So that's why there is from superstructure of pavement, that is camber is provided on the top. Then you will be providing the side drain. Then you will be at frequent intervals. You will be providing the cross drainages so that the entire structure, uh, in the entire structure, there should not be standing water, which will damage the pavement layers, right? So that precaution need to be taken. It's very important to avoid the percolation of water into the lower layers. Next is the pavement should have a long life, and the cost of maintaining it annually should be low. Ultimately, whatever pavements which you'll be designing, like building has its own life, no? Design life after 100 years, or bridge has after 50 years or 80 years, it is going to be demolished. Likewise, structure, pavement structure need to be designed for a certain design life, up to say flexible pavement up to 5 years, 10 years, 8 years. Hmm. Likewise, it is designed, and after that period, it is not going to serve to the uh, standard for which it is designed. So there may be compromise with respect to the riding quality or comfort. There may be potholes. There may be chances of roughness. The aggregates may be coming out. So you'll not get the good riding quality. What does that mean? It is going to affect the riding quality. It may consume riders more time. And then it may the vehicle operation cost will be more if you are taking your vehicle on that particular pavement, right? So likewise, it is going to affect. But till its design life, it should serve well. Hmm. That is, for example, if you are designed a building till 80 to 100 years, you should, when you are staying that time, you should feel that is, I am staying in a safe house. Whenever there is a heavy rainfall, whenever there is worst climatic condition, that time you should not feel now it is going to fall. If that fear is there, what does that mean? That is not a safe building. Similarly, the pavement need to be designed till its design life, whatever 8 years or 10 years or 5 years. If it is designed for 5 years, for those 5 years it should serve properly, right? Means without any potholes, without any major cracks. Definitely there will be certain uh, uh, difficulties with respect to the riding qualities till its design life, but should not be like the vehicle operation cost has increased tremendously. Like, when it is designed to take a vehicle at 80 kmph, then after 2 years it should not happen that you'll not be able to take the vehicle at even at 40 kmph. Then that payment has failed. It should be, if it is designed for 80, at least you should be able to take a vehicle at 60 kmph. Then it's fine. Until fourth or fifth year. With the annual maintenance, that can be maintained, but and overall maintenance cost should be as low as possible. It may be flexible or rigid payment. Whatever payment which you'll be designing, its maintenance cost should be less. Then coming to types of payments, most of you will be aware of flexible and rigid payment. And one more is there, that is semi-rigid payment. Semi-rigid payment. And next one is composite payment. Flexible and rigid, the name itself indicates flexible and rigid. Rigid is there is a slab action, and flexible, when it is load is there, then it is compacted, and when load is removed, there may be chances of it is taking its initial or original position, but it's not like a spring analogy you can understand, but it's not like a spring which will go in a few centimeters down and few centimeters it will come up. No, it is in terms of micro, um, not even mm. It is very negligible. Bare eyes will not be able to see that movement. So we'll discuss one by one. So these are the layers. We can see the top layer in flexible payment, that is surface dressing is done. Surface course itself has various layers: prime coat, tack coat, seal coat, and bituminous concrete. So that is top surface bituminous layer. Next is base course and sub base course and subgrade, natural formation or subgrade. So all these materials we'll be discussing in detail. What are the type of materials used for subgrade, sub base, base layer, and what should be the thickness of base and sub base. What are the materials we can use? Those things we'll be discussing in detail in the further classes. Similarly, in case of rigid pavement, either you can go for base or sub base, and the subgrade and the top layer wearing course remains the same. Slab, concrete pavement remains the same. Like this, you can understand the natural subgrade, base, sub-base, and wearing course. So here it is 4 layers, here it is 3 layers. Coming to this flexible pavement, here this it is also made up of layers, as we have seen in the previous slide. 4 layers I mentioned, and the entire pavement is having negligible to very low flexural strength. Flexural strength is very less. That's why this flexible pavement load distribution is, with respect to grain load distribution will be taking place. Flexural strength is almost, you can say, near to zero or very low. And pavement deflects momentarily under the load, but it rebounds to its original level on the removal of load. As I was mentioning, that is spring analogy or spring concept, but it is not that much of movement will be taking place. It's very negligible movement of pavement will be taking place when it is loaded and unloaded. You can observe, especially during summer season, very heavily loaded trucks, especially construction vehicles, which will be carrying the soil or different construction materials. When it is moving, that time at 12 to 3 o'clock, the mid day, that is hot sun, pavement has the top layer has bitumen has melted, and you can see the impression on the pavement layer, top layer, and slight movement also you can observe. So that is very negligible deflection you can observe. And the lower layers of the pavement or the soil subgrade is undulated, then the flexible pavement surface also gets undulated. That is, if the lower layer gets settled, then we can immediately see the top layer or the upper layers also getting settled in that particular location, so that we can feel when you are moving on a old flexible pavement, there will be some portion it is settled, it will go down, and some portion it is uh, upper portion is there. So lot of when you ride your vehicle at a higher speed, you can feel that. And flexible pavement, the subgrade plays a very important role as it carries the vehicle load and transmit it to the pavement. So upper layer load is distributed. So here you can see in the diagram the wheel load. How this wheel load is nothing but the vehicle is here, it is connected with the axle, and axle is carrying the entire truck or bus or passenger vehicle load, where passengers will be sitting, and that load is transferred to this wheel, and this wheel is transferring to its contact pressure, whatever contact points are there. Uh, to that, those points, it is transferring to the top layer of the pavement, and those pavement will be having the materials. It may be aggregates, and the bonding between the aggregates with respect to flexible pavement, that is bonding between the aggregates is with respect to different types of bitumen or asphalt, different grade of bitumen will be using and compacted, right? Those load is transferred through aggregates, aggregate to aggregate, and it will go down, right? So like this load distribution will be taking place, and wherever that wheel is standing, so at the exactly at the bottom of the wheel, the maximum stress is observed. And as you go away from the wheel, the load distribution is reduced. The stresses are less in the flexible pavement, but it is not the same in case of rigid pavement, right? So these are the things which we can discuss in the flexible. Now, the advantages of flexible pavement is that is it is easy to repair, adjust to the limited differential settlement. Yeah, it's and differential settlement. Yes, we can observe that. And thickness, additional thickness can be added at any time. For example, uh, pavement is near to its design life. For example, it's designed for 5 years, and at fourth year the pavement is getting failed. But you want to extend to more time, instead of 5 years, you want to extend to 6 years. Then one more layer can be made on that existing pavement, or initially years itself the pavement has failed. Then you can one more thin layer can be made on the existing pavement, and can be made new uh, flexible pavement, right? And here in the flexible pavement, the resistance or roughness is very less compared to the rigid pavement. Because of that, there will be a very less noise, and riding comfort is very good. It is quieter and smoother ride you can observe in case of flexible pavement, and tolerates greater range of temperature variations in case of flexible pavements, depending on the uh, location. For example, if you are going to construct in the states like Rajasthan, where temperature variation is very high, in summer it goes up till I'm talking about the pavement temperature, not the climate temperature. Climate temperature also it varies from 45 to during winter season it is up to 4 degree, 5 degree, even 0. So a lot of variation is there. And places like Jammu and Kashmir, only temperature variation is from minus 5 degree to till 25, 30 degrees. Or if you are taking some of the desert locations, then the temperature variations are very large. Then with respect to different climatic conditions, we can select different grade of bitumens, and that variation in the temperature can be easily adopted for the construction of flexible pavement. Some of the disadvantages, major disadvantages, that is it loses its flexibility or cohesion with respect to time. So it may be base, subbase, or wearing surface over the period of time. Especially the wearing surface, flexible pavement top layer, it loses its cohesion between the aggregate particles. The the ductility has reduced, and the bonding between the aggregates is reduced. And apart from that, many disadvantages. That is, even though its initial construction cost is less, requires frequent maintenance. It needs resurfacing sooner than that of the concrete roads. Frequent resurfacing. So that is, there may be chances of cracks or aggregates may be coming out, or the bonding between the aggregates is reduced. Then it demands, that is, resurfacing the top layer. It is not recommended where waterlogged area is there or frequent heavy rainfall is there. There, what will happen? The bonding between the aggregates is reduced because the water will come into contact, and the lower layers will there may be chances of losing the uh, bonding between the different layers, aggregate or pavement materials, or when it is soaked or when it is submerged, that time the bitumen may lose its design life is reduced, and overall the entire layer system of the flexible pavement gets damaged very easily in uh, wherever that is waterlogged areas are there. So there it can prefer rigid pavement, which will not get affected very easily, even though it is submerged. Especially top layer, the wearing surface will not get disturbed or will not get damaged easily. That is major advantage of rigid pavement. And flexible pavement, other disadvantages, what we can say is frequent maintenance. That is very strong disadvantage of flexible pavement, and it demands resurfacing sooner, and waterlogged areas, it is difficult to maintain till its design life. Rigid pavement, here the name indicates that is rigid. So rigid with respect to the material what we are using. Here the material used is cement concrete. It may be a plain cement concrete, or it may be a reinforced cement concrete, or it may be pre-stressed panels. You might have uh, heard of this in developed countries. It is difficult to disturb the traffic for a longer period. In rigid pavement, yeah, one more advantage of that flexible pavement is this: you can open the traffic within 24 hours. But in case of rigid pavement, you need to wait till its curing period, that is minimum of 28 days. You need to wait so that the cement concrete gets cured well and it can support the wheel loads. That is the major disadvantage of this rigid pavement. To avoid that, they are going for this pre-stressed concrete panels. The concrete panels are casted in the factories and cured, and after curing it is brought in large vehicles through the cranes. Those pre-stressed concrete panels are attached and can allow the traffic. So that is practiced in some of the developed countries, but it's process a bit tedious. That is getting the panels done in the factories, getting them in large vehicles using cranes and placing it well. Other things related to rigid pavement is that the flexural strength is relatively more. We can say it is very high in case of rigid pavements. That's why the rigid pavement has the slab action and capable of transmitting the wheel load stresses to the wider area below that pavement top layer. That's why we are telling in the flexible pavement, the load distribution just below the wheel load, there is a large stress we can observe. But in case of rigid pavement, the stress distribution is for a larger area. Here you can see in this picture, the wheel load just below the wheel load, the stresses are okay, fine, that is more, but it is not the maximum compared to other pavement distances. So here it is relatively high just below the wheel load, but it is evenly distributed, or you can say the stress distribution is relatively not a point loaded one. It is trying to distribute uniformly toward the upper layer. So, or even the lower layers also, it is not going to affect exactly below. Means the rutting action, what we can say, in rigid pavement is less when it is compared with the flexible pavement. Rutting is when the vehicle is moving, especially in mud roads, you might have observed to that wherever the wheels have traveled, that impression will be there. Bullock carts, they are going only this side and that side. Two lines will be there, depressions, you can say, throughout the length of the road. So that is called as a rutting. So that we will not observe in case of rigid pavement. But flexible pavement, yes, definitely you can observe such kind of rutting action. And as a rigid pavement slab has tensile strength, tensile stresses are developed due to bending of the slab to the wheel load and temperature variations. So tensile strength with respect to rigid pavement, the stresses are developed with respect to temperature variations, and to counter temperature variations, a lot of in the design part will be taking care. We'll be discussing the joints and all. And here we'll come across few of the points like flexible pavement is without the joints and rigid pavement is with the joints. And structural behavior of rigid pavement is uh, different than the flexible pavement. That is with respect to the flexural stress which is occurring in the slab due to wheel load and temperature variations. The temperature variations need to be distributed. And flexible pavement, it is the in flexible pavement, that is distribution of compressive stresses. That is the main stress, means that is compaction is just below the wheel load. And in case of rigid pavement, that is kind of slab action. And in slab action, when you come across tensile stresses are developed, and apart from that, temperature variations that is need to be taken care. So advantages, it has a very good durability. Durability in terms of 30 to 50 years of design life. Now, present day they are designing up to 50 years. Otherwise, in general, you can say up to 20 to 30 years of design life. Whereas flexible payment is 8 to 10 years or max 12 years of design life. And the long service life, its durability is also good. First point, durability means till its design life or for a prolonged period, it is not going to demand any maintenance. That's durability is very good. And service life is also good, and it can withstand repeated flooding and subsurface water without deviation. As I was mentioning, even water is going to stand on the rigid pavement, it is not going to affect the top layer or bottom layer. But flexible pavement, yes, it's definitely going to affect if it is the water is getting road is getting flooded for a certain period. And another disadvantage of this rigid pavement is it doesn't demand frequent maintenance, and its maintenance cost is very low. Hmm. And once it is designed, it is kind of maintenance free or tension free. Initial investment is a bit higher side. That is the major drawback of this rigid payment. The disadvantage with respect to rigid payment is its initial cost is very high, and maintenance cost is low. That is advantage. And noise which it produces because of rough surface, that is also non-tolerable, or you can say it is kind of especially on expressways when you are riding vehicle at a higher speed, the continuous noise will create irritation to the passengers. And this rigid pavement has a rough surface. Because of that, tire consumption or vehicle operation cost is bit on the higher side. And we need to have a joint for the design part of rigid pavements. Those joint maintenance, we need to avoid the failure at the joints, and the joint filling need to be taken care frequently. Then as it is a slab action, that is uniform settlement may take place. And if it is not maintained, whenever there will be very less failures of payment, but whenever the payment fails, it need to be addressed very soon. If the payment fails and if you are not repairing that, then it will lead to a major maintenance cost in case of rigid payment. Okay. So here you can see longitudinal joints, yellow strip, and transverse joints perpendicular to the longitudinal joint. Longitudinal joint is along the length of the road. The center will be providing the joints, that is longitudinal joints. Or in case of urban roads, you'll find this longitudinal joints not only one, a number of longitudinal joints. In case of Congress Road, you might have observed these longitudinal joints, number of longitudinal joints. Congress Road, more number of longitudinal and transverse joints are there. Blocks, smaller blocks they have made. And when you are traveling from railway station to fish market, that is transfer longitudinal joints are very less. Semi-rigid pavements. Semi-rigid pavements is in between flexible and rigid pavement. So here we are using pozzolanic concrete, or it may be a lime fly ash aggregate mixes for the lower layers of base and sub base, or it may be uh, lean cement concrete or soil cement or stabilized soil, you can see, for the lower layers of pavement construction, that is base and sub-base layers. And it is going to give the considerably higher structural strength. So we are calling it as semi-rigid pavement. Semi-rigid pavement is for the pavement construction, lower layers like base and sub-base construction for that construction, we are using pozzolanic concrete. Pozzolanic concrete is, it may be the waste material like GGBS or fly ash from various industry waste like iron ore industry waste. Hmm? Um, those things are used for preparing the dry lean cement concrete or soil cement concrete for the construction of base and sub-base layers, and it will enhance the flexural strength. So that kind of pavement we are calling as a semi-rigid pavement. And these semi-rigid pavements are designed either using the flexible pavement design with some correction factors to find the total thickness of the pavement, uh, and in case of this semi-rigid pavement, the materials have a low resistance to impact and abrasion. That's why it is not preferred on the wearing surface. Next is composite pavement. It is the one which comprises of multiple or structurally significant layers of different heterogeneous compositions like brick sandwiched concrete pavement or bituminous pavement layer on the top of the concrete pavement, or in urban roads in a smart city concept you might have heard the white topping of roads. White topping of roads is what? The existing flexible pavement is there. On that, the rigid pavement layer of lesser thickness concrete is laid, hmm, without uh, excavating the existing flexible pavement. Existing flexible pavement is cleaned, is paired, and on that you are going for the rigid pavement. So those kind of uh, pavement we are calling as a composite pavements. Okay. So any difficulties in understanding types of pavement, what is flexible pavement, what is the rigid pavement, how the stresses will be distributed. Any difficulties in understanding? Vijay, Sandesh, Neha, are you all getting?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Earlier trips, you might have observed the road construction, right? Not just to give an example of this, in front of Dakshata Hospital, hmm, third gate, or in front of DMart, recently they have excavated. There you can observe the existing pavement they have excavated, no? And you can see the layers, top layer and base course layers, and even sub-base layer you can see, and subgrade layer you can see, right? Because they are excavated up till 3 to 5 meters. Whenever you go out and observe uh, such kind of construction activities, you can try to take the photographs and share in this 8B pavement design group, so that we can discuss what is that particular structure, and what are the different layers which they have constructed, or if you observe any new kind of pavement material which they are using. For example, some industry waste like fly ash they are using, or they are using some recycled aggregates they are using. They are using compacting it. They are using some different type of soil. Then you can take a photograph, and if you have time, you can discuss. The COVID is just knowing what are different materials, advanced materials or waste materials, especially with respect to pavement design. Uh, the government is more concerned to use industrial wastes in road construction. Reason behind that, in road construction, we are using large quantity of materials, and that is pavement layers. If it can give strength by using some of the uh, engineering techniques, you can increase the strength of those waste materials, and you can engage or you can use those waste materials in road construction. Then it has two advantages. One is we are saving the natural resource which we want to use for the road construction. And secondly, whatever the waste material which need to be dumped somewhere, and which it will occupy certain land, that particular land can be used for some other purpose, and that waste material can be, instead of waste, we can call as a construction material, right? So a few decades before this flash and ground granulated blast fuse, marble powder, those things were considered as waste materials. But present day, civil engineers have engaged those waste materials in construction industries, especially road construction, concrete, and all, wherever possible, from wearing surface to the prepared subgrade, wherever you can use. If it is used, then it is no more a waste material; it is a construction material. Right? So it's civil engineers' responsibility to understand what are the standards to which a particular layer need to be designed with respect to its CBR, with respect to its aggregate gradations, with respect to aggregate strength. So whatever you have studied in geotechnical engineering lab and concrete and highway lab,